These points I solemnly swear to observe.
Under no less penalty than having my throat cut across.
Under no less penalty than that of having my throat cut across.
My tongue torn out by the root.
My tongue torn out by the root and buried at low water mark where the tide ebbs and flows.
In the name of the crucified one, I swear to sever all bonds which unite me with mother, brothers, sisters, wife, relatives, friends, mistress, kings, superiors, benefactors, or any other man to whom I have promised faith, service, or obedience. I name the place in which I was born. Henceforth I live in another dimension, which I will not reach until I have renounced the evil globe which has been cursed by heaven.
This oath is taken by all men who join the Brotherhood of Freemasons.
All over the world, there are 6 million people who call themselves Freemasons and believe they are spreading the light, but they are actually very much afraid of the light.
Nearly 6 million members of all races and religions, all men, and all believers in a supreme being, meet in nearly windowless lodges throughout the world. There, facing a central altar, their chief officer sitting in the east, they perform intricate dramas, usually based on stories from the Old Testament. The ritualistic plays are the initiation ceremonies for each new member and the core of the Masonic rites.
It is generally acknowledged as a fraternity of men bound by secret oaths and rituals.
The sacred writings are to govern our faith. The square is to regulate our actions, and the compass is to keep us in due bounds with all mankind. The lesser lights are the sun to rule the day, the moon to govern the night.
Most people look upon Masonry as simply a fraternity, and these oaths have no meaning. But tragically they do.
Joseph Smith, the founder of the Church of Mormon, was murdered by the Masons on June 27, 1844. The reason why is because Joseph Smith, who was a Mason, revealed the secrets of the Masonic Lodge in the Temple Endowment Ceremony.
A monument was erected in Batavia, New York, and remains to this day, in remembrance of what happened to William Morgan. The inscription on its base reads, "To the memory of William Morgan, a native of Virginia, a captain in the War of 1812. He was abducted from near this spot in the year 1826 by Freemasons and murdered for revealing the secrets of their order."
Every member that was on the Warren Commission that was to investigate President Kennedy's assassination was a Freemason. Every single one of them.
They protected the truth that Masons were directly involved in the assassination of President Kennedy.
It may surprise some of you that if you had to put a name to the conspiracy that's come down to us through the ages, that some call the Illuminati, some other people call it other things, but I think if you boil it down to its purest, simplest form, you would identify it essentially as Freemasonry.
They do network together to control the economy, the educational system, the religions of the world, the politics of the world. Are we plotting the destruction of the nation? Of course not. Nonsense.
But see, if you start exposing them, they'll go after you, they'll go after your family, they'll try to kill you because the government is part of it.
Do we have any proof that Freemasonry controls our nation? Is that even possible?
Did you know that 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons?
Throughout American history, powerful and influential men have belonged to the Masonic Brotherhood.
This guy was a high-degree Freemason, George Washington. One of the top ones, and he became the first president, no coincidence.
George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, James Monroe, John Jay, John Hancock, Paul Revere, John Paul Jones, and James Otis.
The symbols of Freemasonry are everywhere.
The Masons have to conceal their hidden agenda, their secret agenda for the United States.
Because this shit's in front of everybody. Like all the people who deny conspiracy theories and stuff, in their wallet are fucking rectangles covered in Egyptian occult symbology that they don't even think about.
Yeah, what's up with that fucking all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid?
Just an eye on top of a pyramid, that makes sense.
The eye in the pyramid still graces the $1 bill. It was President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Freemason of the 32nd degree, who ordered the seal to be printed on the dollar bill in 1933, 144 years after Congress had accepted this seal.
What that means, folks, is for the last 150 years, there's been nothing but Freemasons in the political positions of power. You name the political positions in this country.
The highest official level of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is the 33rd degree, and it has this motto, Ordo ab Chaos, order out of chaos.
And it's the all-seeing eye of their God that they believe will indeed bring us Ordo ab Chaos. That is their slogan, order out of chaos.
Occultic 13s, 13 leaves in the olive branches, 13 bars and stripes in the shield, 13 arrows, 13 letters of E pluribus unum, and on and on and on and on.
The Masonic pyramid on the dollar bill is built of 33 stones. The supranational socialist power the Illuminati aspired to was summed up in the concept of Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. The seal symbolizes the Illuminati claim to control America, no matter who is president.
Also, right the way through to the present day, the presidents are not only connected to the bloodline, they're fundamentally involved in the secret society network that puts the bloodlines into power.
There is no Republican Party, there is no Democratic Party, there never was a party except for the Masonic Party. There is no ABC, there is no CBS, there is no NBC. They all came out of David Sarnoff's RCA, who was a Mason.
Composers Irving Berlin, Mozart, and Duke Ellington were Masons, joining Will Rogers, Charles Lindbergh, and John Wayne.
Here's a picture of Gerald Ford, Roy Clark, Ernest Borgnine, Buzz Aldrin, Glenn Ford, the actor, showing that they're all Shriners.
Jack the Ripper was said to be Sir William Gull, a Freemason with ties to the royal family. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill as a Masonic symbol, and many founding fathers like George Washington were active Freemasons. Some even say the Freemasons had infiltrated all segments of society and government and ultimately control the course of history.
And if you follow it down through the line to this very day, most of the actors, I would say the great majority, if not all, of the major actors are all high Masons. All the singers, all of them.
A couple of your fans are downright harsh about what they suspect is your secret interest in the Illuminati or membership in the Freemasons. Let me ask you this. Are you a Freemason?
Possibly.
That's not a no. You're just going to leave it at that?
Yeah, we just don't talk about that stuff. Our band's very esoteric. You know, we don't get into the descriptions and meanings of a lot of the symbology that we use. The thing with Angels and Airways, this band it's not a normal band. There's a reason and a message behind everything that we do about the way you look at yourself and the way you look at the world around you.
But Freemasonry is about the building of man as Solomon's temple. As Solomon builds his temple, this is how you should be building yourself. And as one of Solomon's temples, you are also building the world to be a better place. That's Freemasonry.
If we think about ourselves as unfinished temples, finding the lost word would be being able to find that link between your deity and yourself. And finding that brings all of our unfinished nature, let's say, to that point of perfection.
Well, now, this is very interesting, isn't it? Especially when you find out that Freemasonry is a religion. Freemasonry says Masonry is the church of human progress.
You get back to the Masonic fraternity of Freemasonry. Yeah. Their great symbol is G. You'll look at the star on the compass, which is a stylized Star of David. In fact, they have the entire Star of David in many Masonic temples. Why is that?
To many Christians, the symbol represents the nation of Israel, and they call it the Star of David. But a closer look at the history and purpose of this symbol will reveal something quite startling and disturbing.
The low-ranking OES members, Eastern Star members, and Freemasons are not aware that what they are signing up for is a Luciferian doctrine and pagan occult practices.
As with all secret societies, you have levels, and if you're on the lower levels, you don't even know they're upper levels. They don't even tell you.
This is what they do in the secret societies. That's just why they have all these different levels, 33 degrees. Each degree they disclose a lot more.
Freemasonry, headed by Lucifer, the great architect, claims to give you the light to bring man into his or her divine status or Christ consciousness, the light. This is demonic. You open yourself up to the demonic. They will not tell you this when you first join the lodge.
I believe that the system of Freemasonry, the dynamic of Freemasonry, the spirit that empowers Freemasonry is Luciferian, is satanic.
It's satanic at the core. This whole country is not based upon Christianity. It's satanic from head to toe.
Freemasonry is based on demonism.
Freemasonry is rationalist and humanist. It is not superstitious, and it is not involved in the occult.
A lot of Masons don't have a clue as to the fact that the Masonic God is basically Satan.
I think that's supremely arrogant of anyone who's not a Mason to believe they know more about Freemasonry than a Mason does.
Something's wrong, folks, in America. Something's really wrong.
So this is the conspiracy. And it's important to understand that the key thing of the conspiracy is that it's done in secret. That's the essence of a conspiracy.
The secrecy of the organization is part of what creates the environment that allows you to become so trustworthy and so honest with all your fellow organization members.
Why do some say that their members will defend their brethren or protect the group's secrets at any cost?
If you want to follow the conspiracy theory, the idea is that these type of people, these elite societies, that what they would do is they would have these rituals, and they would do something really f***ed up so no one could ever talk about it. Like they would kill somebody, like they'd take a prostitute and kill her in front of everybody, and then bury her somewhere. And no one could talk about it because they were all implicated, and so that's everyone, it's like you're pawned to this cult.
Most of the aforementioned Masons took the following Royal Arch degree oath. Quote, "Furthermore, do I promise and swear that I will aid and assist a companion Royal Arch Mason when engaged in any difficulty, and espouse his cause so far as to extricate him from the same, if in my power, whether he be right or wrong." Unquote. Therefore, a Mason, upon passing through the Royal Arch degree, is prohibited from exposing the crimes of fellow Royal Arch Masons on pain of death.
It is a test. If a man cannot keep secrets, something as simple as a handshake, as a password, how can I trust him with the more important obligations?
And there's always two sides to the same coin, and there's a hidden side and a side that's in view, esoteric and exoteric.
Hidden behind every major religion and tradition hides an esoteric secret, and throughout history, only an elect few were initiated into the mysteries of this truth, as it became completely forbidden to reveal the secrets of this mystery to the public.
The classic initiation, as pointed out by Dr. Thomas Carlson, involves a symbolic death, descent into the underworld, a rebirth, and return. The initiate's old life and self, presented as a cage of ignorance, dies, and he or she is enlightened or illuminated and reborn into a new life. Through this process of initiation, the adept receives esoteric knowledge about a religion or myth's hidden truths.
To overcome the dark magicians who have held our world hostage for centuries, we must study and understand the occult wisdom they have usurped for their own advantage. We must accept that a metaphysical world exists beyond our perception, and though it has been dismissed as fallacy by our corrupted modern sciences, it has been intentionally hidden and used against the populace. The time has come to expose those in the highest seats of power for who they really are and who they really worship, as we struggle to assimilate the greatest deception humanity has ever known.
That's the secret, if you can comprehend what I just said. But the point is that secrets are put into the craft of the teacher. The teacher does not blatantly tell you, this is the truth. You won't even understand it.
But understand that Masonry has been around a long, long time. It may not have always been called Freemasonry.
We have to understand that the first secret societies came after the Holy Crusades. The Crusaders were exposed to many new ideas in the Middle East, and these stories retold the story of the devil giving Eve the apple.
The origin I'm talking about are the mystery religions. This is what has ruled the entire world since before the flood and after. Secret knowledge, enlightenment, the Kabbalah, sun worship, moon worship, stellar worship, paganism. This practice goes by many names, but in the end, it all comes back to Mystery Babylon, the teachings of the fallen angels.
When the Crusaders returned home, they knew that they'd be put to death for talking about these things, so they created several secret societies where men were sworn to secrecy under oaths and pain of death if they talked about anything outside the circle. These secret societies were the Templars, the Rosicrucians, and Freemasons.
Freemasonry, in order to study different elements of ritual, blood oaths, and a form of the Kabbalah.
You got to realize how powerful, brilliant, intelligent these men are, and how dark it is as well.
They practice ancient occult blood rituals to gain favor with the Nephilim or demons, principalities, and fallen angels. Higher-up members may blackmail lower-ranking members, and the cycle continues. They believe themselves to be above the law and have a right to control those below them.
The upper levels of Freemasonry require the initiate to memorize dozens of pages of text written in Hebrew and study symbols used in the Goetia to invoke spirits.
In fact, they have the entire story of David in many Masonic temples. Why is that? Masonry is a study of Judaism and of the Kabbalah. Albert Pike said in his book Morals and Dogma that the Kabbalah is the very basis. Without the Kabbalah, we would not have the 33 ritual.
The Jewish Tribune newspaper on October 28, 1927, stated, "Freemasonry is based on Judaism. Eliminate the teachings of Judaism from the Masonic ritual, and what is left?"
In the book, I discuss Zionism. Some of you don't know a lot about the word Zionism, but it really is the reason why Israel over there is involved in a life and death struggle with the Palestinians.
We know that the origins of the modern Zionist movement was started by the Rothschild family. As the legends go, the family changed their name from Bauer to Rothschilds, which means red shield, as family patriarch Mayer Amscheld Bauer began hanging a red hexagram in front of their house to identify it. And as many have pointed out, there is an uncanny relationship with the six-sided star, with the number of the beast, 666.
But the Rothschilds and the Masons, they combined together, and through this combination, in came birth through Adam Weishaupt. And Adam Weishaupt, he is the leader and the founder of the Illuminati.
The Illuminati is a group of bankers that start with the Rothschilds. And there were five, one was Rothschild, it was 5 sons. And each Rothschild controlled a part of Europe. One son was England, one son was France, one son was Spain, one son was Germany. And they started a banking system in Europe, the Rothschilds. It was a Jewish family. And their banking practice got so big that they began to finance governments. The bank began to finance wars.
The whole family was driven by an insatiable lust for the accumulation of wealth and power. They secretly financed both sides in various European wars, dominated European banking, and by the mid-1800s had become the richest family in the world.
Rothschild helped found Israel, and Rothschild has always been the backer of Israel.
Many folks today believe that the Orthodox Judaism that is present in modern-day Israel is simply those who follow the Torah or the Old Testament. This, however, is not true at all.
Does Judaism, as it is practiced today, have anything to do with the patriarchs and prophets of the Old Testament? Nothing. Nothing at all.
They don't believe God. They don't believe Jesus Christ. They don't believe the Old Testament. They don't believe the New Testament. They don't believe any of it.
You know, we're told that in the Old Testament that the Hebrew people, the Jewish people, were worshipers of one God. That's never been true, not true now, and never will be true.
They don't want you to look in the Bible and say, well, what is it about what they're saying in there that made Farrakhan say the synagogue of Satan and say false Jews? What is it?
You know, in Revelation 2 and 3, there's interesting verses which talk about them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan.
It's not hard to figure out who the synagogue of Satan is when you realize that there's only one religion in this world that uses synagogues.
It's not an accident that in those days, the Jews wanted Jesus dead. That's actual fact. That's not hate teachings. If you read the Bible, that's an actual fact. They can't escape that.
Do you believe that the Jews killed Jesus?
It's possible the Jews did kill Jesus.
Right.
So let's say they did. Right? Maybe he deserved to die, but maybe he was a troublemaker. Let's assume we did. So we killed somebody.
I hope the Jews did kill Christ. I'd do it again.
The church fathers blamed the Jews for the death of Jesus, and that is Paul's doing. To this day, 26% of all Americans believe that Jews were responsible in the death of Jesus.
When Mel Gibson came out with his Temptation of Christ, oh, he's an anti-Semite. What a horrible person. He says the Jews, killed Jesus. Well, that's what the Bible says.
You should just fucking smile and blow me!
Israel. The second you mention the word Israel, the nation Israel, the concept Israel, many in the American press become very defensive. We're not allowed to be highly critical of the state of Israel. And the other thing we're not allowed to do is discuss the notion that Israel and the notion of Israeli interests may in fact be dictating what America is doing.
But I believe that Israel has a powerful stranglehold on the American government. They control both members of the House and the Senate. They have us involved in wars of which we have little or no interest. Our children are coming back in body bags. Our nation is bankrupt over these wars. And if you open your mouth, you get targeted. They control much of the media. They control much of the commerce of the country. And they control powerfully both bodies of the Congress. They own the Congress.
Are you an anti-Semite?
No, I'm not. That's exactly what they're going to say.
To modern-day Christ-rejecting Israel, anyone who holds a biblical view that the Jews are no longer God's chosen people is labeled by the media as an anti-Semite.
Hollywood is run by Jews. It's owned by Jews. I'm angry with some of the Jews. I'm very goddamn angry at some of the Jews.
Okay, so that being said, here's the story. The Cabal has been planning to try to dominate the planet for many, many hundreds of years. If you really want to understand what the Cabal is, it goes all the way back to Babylonian money magic and the idea of using a financial system to create a disparity between rich and poor so that a small group of isolated power elites can control who lives and who dies, who eats and who starves. The top people are not elected. The top people are the ones that run the money system.
Because this is all part of the ancient mystery schools of Babylon. It goes back to Babylon and Egypt. Freemasonry, Illuminati, Enlightenment, all of that.
It's all about control. Every dictatorship has one obsession, and that's it. So in ancient Rome, they gave the people bread and circuses. They kept the populace busy with entertainment. But other dictatorships use other strategies to control ideas and knowledge. How do they do that? Lower education. They limit culture, censor information. They censor any means of individual expression. And it's important to remember this, that this is a pattern that repeats itself throughout history.
Because our masters don't give a damn about you or your family or your destiny with God. All they care about is what they have always cared about, and that's controlling the whole damn world.
That's it. So we can't escape that. We're locked in a battle right now, and it's God and Satan. We're locked in the battle.
You know why? Everything was taken over by the devil. You got nothing else to turn to except a government-controlled, Hollywood and school brainwashed world under a Catholic banner. And Satan won. Satan won. Satan won.
You know, this has been the ultimate goal all through these many, many centuries and centuries since Babylon. This is the ultimate goal of the mystery schools.
If you've been watching the news lately, you would have noticed that there is a lot of attention being focused on the Middle East and on Israel. And the question is, why is the Middle East so important?
The Temple Mount is the site of the first and second Jewish temples, but for hundreds of years it's been occupied by Muslim shrines. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Golden Dome of the Rock now sit on the site. But some Jewish people want to build a third Jewish temple.
Every year, thousands of pilgrims come to this place, Palestine, to discover their spiritual roots. Yet today, it is not just the religious. Mankind in general is turning its attention toward this land.
Recent violence between Israel and Palestine centers around the site called the Temple Mount, which has a long history of sparking conflict between Israel and the surrounding Muslim countries.
Most of us realize that if World War III erupts, it could begin right here in a collision between Arab and Jew. What are the causes of this conflict between Arab and Jew? A conflict which never seems to go away.
In Israel, they have mass rallies, 10,000, 20,000 people strong in Tel Aviv. If a soldier executes an unarmed Palestinian man and gets a slap on the wrist, like this guy Elor Azaria executed an unarmed Palestinian, it was on video. It's a horrific video. And because there was this international uproar about it, Israel had to put him on house arrest. The Israeli government put him on house arrest, and that was enough for like a mass mobilization of tens of thousands of people to come out and protest the fact that he was getting even reprimanded. Like, they can do whatever they want because you are under martial law. And you have no mobility, like you have no freedom. They can firebomb you, they can shoot you, they can beat you up. They're protected by the state.
So what makes the Temple Mount so important? Well, in a nutshell, this little hill in Jerusalem hosts structures representing each religion. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is considered the third holiest site in Sunni Islam, the Western Wall, which is considered the holiest place for Jews to pray, and for Christians, the Temple Mount is where Jesus issued a challenge against temple authorities, which ostensibly led to his crucifixion. The triple claim on this area is further complicated by the dual control of it by both Muslim and Israeli authorities.
The Temple Mount in Jerusalem is arguably the most contested and most important piece of real estate on earth. It's at the heart of the bullseye of Bible prophecy, Jerusalem. Jerusalem is at the crossroads of the volatile Middle East, where today we see the nations of Syria, Iraq and Iran in turmoil as a revolution, ethnic conflict and terrorist activity push millions from their homes while threatening the existence of nations and the peace of the entire region. The stage is being set for the fulfillment of key Bible prophecies that will take place before the second coming of Christ.
It all started 4,000 years ago, when God told Abraham to go to Mount Moriah and sacrifice his son there. Abraham, believing that God will either provide a substitute or will raise Isaac from the dead, goes to the top of this mountain, and indeed, God provides a substitute, a lamb. 1,000 years later, King David purchases a threshing floor that is located at the very same place, Mount Moriah. And on top of this threshing floor, David's son builds the first temple. This temple was then destroyed by the Babylonians. They burned it down to the ground, but not for a long time. For just 70 years later, God appoints a king over Babylon who permitted the Jews to rebuild the second temple. All this brings us to the times of Jesus. According to Flavius Josephus, the second temple was renovated and massively expanded by King Herod in the 1st century BC. He wanted it so much greater in size that he had architects from Greece, Rome, and Egypt to expand the natural plateau of the Mount Moriah into a giant square platform. Almost immediately after the Muslim conquest of Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque were erected. There's archaeological and historical evidence that suggests the dome was added to an existing church from the Byzantine Empire, and the storerooms of the temple were converted to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. 300 years later, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem and identified the Al-Aqsa Mosque as nothing else but Solomon's Temple. It was from this location that the new order took the name of Templar Knights. But they did not stay here for a long time. In the same century, the Mamluks captured Jerusalem and held post until the Ottomans took over. So since the time the Crusaders were gone until today, the Temple Mount was under Muslim governance, with a strict no excavation policy.
And this is really a basic principle of Jewish faith, that the Holy Temple is not just some magnificent synagogue. It really wasn't a synagogue at all, or just some beautiful building rooted in the biblical past of the Middle East, but rather it's seen by the Torah as the vehicle that brings about a certain spiritual reconciliation between all of mankind and God. And of course, every prophet of Israel tells us that the time will come when the temple will again be rebuilt, and actually it's the era, the epic of the Third Temple, which is seen, for example, when we study Isaiah, as the time which will be unparalleled in human history, when all mankind will be at peace and united in the recognition of God. So everything that we do is really about the restoration of the promise of the temple. There's a number of ways that we go about this. The production of educational materials and curriculum that are used all over the world, and conferences and publications.
But now they're going to equate the Third Temple with Israel's right to exist. And if you deny the Third Temple, then therefore you're also denying Israel's right to exist.
And they define that as Zionism. And we remember back to AIPAC,
Yes.
that is their definition. Now, this sounds like a political issue, right? That you know, advocating for, again, that this temple needs to be built, or that it's akin to Tel Aviv and other places in Israel.
You know, that's a canard that's very popular, that countries have a right to exist. Countries have a right to defend themselves.
And your accusation that Israel and its representatives corrupt U.S. politics?
No candidate or politician can ever hope to be elected without the obligatory visit to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust memorial in Israel, while being forced to wear that mind-numbing yarmulke and the obligatory pandering and shameful visit and speech to the true altar of your government.
Are you seriously suggesting that the U.S. should be indifferent to whether Israel survives?
I think that's exactly what I'm suggesting.
How could that possibly be when Israel is the closest ally and when it's the only democratic state in the region?
Let's stop and talk about that little pronoun, our. What do you mean by that, our ally? Is Israel my ally? What does that mean, they're our ally? You know what they really mean is that they're the ally of the U.S. military.
What the Israeli lobby has done is to convince Americans, or have tried to convince Americans, that Israeli interests are identical with U.S. national security interests.
A lot of people would believe that to be true.
Well, a lot of people are foolish then, and leading America into defeat.
You know, we try not to be political. We're really not a political organization at all. It's totally a religious and educational undertaking, but it's kind of hard to separate. You know, we're called a kingdom of priests and a holy people, the chosen people. Now, not everyone is comfortable with that appellation. I woke up one morning and there it was. I didn't fill out a form. And it doesn't mean that we're the best pediatricians and Wall Street brokers and film producers. We happen to be that also, but that might be a coincidence. But what it really means is that God has chosen the Jewish people to be the vehicle throughout the saga of human history, wherein He proclaims to the whole world that He exists. And you know what? When you look at a Jew in the world today, there's no other explanation for the fact that we're here except that there's a God in the world. And we're really just trying to do everything possible as a declaration of our faith that we believe that this is the destiny of the Jewish people.
When there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic.
Let me tell you something, another thing, you know. They're supposed to be the chosen ones, but they be in the welfare office and the Section 8 office. They the first one to get any kind of bargain deal on anything.
Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural, and I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
I mean, right now, Jewish people just going on the Temple Mount can create a riot sometimes. So can you envision a scenario where they would allow the temple to be built? No.
Before Zionist settlers came here around the turn of the century, this region was not particularly known for strife. Yet since then, it has known little but strife. Is there something within Judaism itself which acts as an abrasive on this land?
I think there's no hope from within Israeli society to change, because it's becoming a more theocratic state and a more fascist state as it grows, because you have to be to maintain this Jewish supremacist state. It's sick, man, and they just signed that $10 billion aid package. Giving it to Israel for the next 10 years is, actually I think it was $30 billion over the next 10 years, which is crazy, because this would never be able to happen if it weren't just completely supported by the U.S.
And why is it supported by the U.S.?
With British Prime Minister Lloyd George up against a wall, Lionel Rothschild and the Jewish Zionists offered the British a deal they couldn't refuse. "We'll bring the United States into the war as your ally and win the war for you," they said, "if you'll promise us Palestine." In April of 1917, President Wilson got the green light and declared war on Germany. In return, the British government wrote the famous Balfour Declaration and addressed it to none other than Lord Lionel Rothschild. The declaration promised Palestine and Israel to the Rothschild Zionists.
The Balfour Declaration, a 1917 letter from then UK Foreign Secretary Lord Arthur Balfour pledging Britain's support for the establishment of a home for Jewish people in Palestine. Israel's National Archives are full of correspondences around that promise, including letters of protest from Palestinian leaders at the time. 100 years after the fact, the Palestinian Authority says they'll sue Britain's government in an international court.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
Now, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here today when I say that the Rothschilds are an incredibly wealthy, powerful, and secretive family, and they are consumed by an all-out lust for power and control. Behind the scenes, they have been manipulating our finances and our politics, and with the ability to issue currency that is created out of thin air and then loaned to governments at interest, it is through this process that they manage to emerge on the very top of this pyramidal structure of power.
We were suckered into that war merely so that the Zionists of the world could obtain Palestine.
The New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well,
what do you, I mean, the Rothschilds family did start the federal, they divided Europe first, took over Europe with Napoleon.
Don't exaggerate.
The Rothschild prominence in this historic situation cannot be understated, especially since it is the Rothschild family that eventually designed and financed the Knesset, Israel's parliament, including the pyramid with the eye and all the other occult symbology. In the 19th century, the Rothschild family were at the height of their powers, and they utilized this power by effecting some very significant events in human history in order to profit greatly from it.
Well, you know, a lot of people will try anything for peace, and John Lennon said, all we're saying is give peace a chance.
But the fact is, these men were part of a conspiracy. Each of them were members of the tightly knit Rex Deus families. They were related by blood or marriage, most often by both. And the publicly stated purpose, you might call it a cover story, of these Knights Templar was that they were there to protect Christian pilgrims from bandits as the pilgrims traveled to Jerusalem. But the truth is that what most of these men spent their time doing, the first 9 years of their time in Jerusalem, was they were excavating the Temple Mount, hunting for the hidden treasures left by their alleged ancestors. And this is confirmed by modern archaeologists who covered an 80-foot deep shaft that led below the ground level of the Temple Mount. And they discovered a network of tunnels that the Templars had dug out. Archaeologists have wondered how these medieval knights knew where to dig. It's not that easy to figure out. Well, the Rex Deus families have presented their own answer to these questions, claiming that for over 1,000 years, the knowledge of what was buried and where it was buried had been passed down by oral tradition. What we do know is that something that these men discovered made them very, very wealthy. Now, here's where the story really begins to get intriguing.
In 1307, they had the crown heads of Europe up to their necks in debt to them, with a scam that follows these bloodlines everywhere that they have come, right to the present day. And the scam is lending people money that doesn't exist and charging them interest on it.
To me, when there's no doubt about this, a secret order.
Groups like the Templars and the Freemasons practiced archaeoastronomy, or the ancient practice of aligning buildings with celestial bodies. The majority of groups that worship the sun, moon, or stars follow the Kabbalah. Kabbalists are similar to Freemasons. They build mind control programs and are skilled in subliminal messaging and manifestation through subliminal symbols, phrases, or numbers. They use forms of numerology and geometry to construct their mind control spells. Kabbalists are usually trained in a form of astronomy and sometimes in demonology. Who would want to carry out mind control? One category are the groups that use the Kabbalah. This, and this are all based on the Kabbalah, and no, none of these organizations are separate.
All versions of Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, the Skull and Bones, the Palladian Rite of Freemasonry, Co-Masonry, Scottish Rite Masonry, the Ku Klux Klan, and Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis are derived from the original Kabbalistic rituals of the Knights Templar.
They learned the secret arts of the Kabbalah, an ancient form of Jewish magic, along with its dark rites and rituals. The Jews had learned the arts from the pagans of ancient Egypt during the times of enslavement to the Pharaoh, and developed them into Babylon.
They followed the rules and the laws of the Babylonian Talmud, which is the most antichrist book in existence.
The Talmud began as an oral law prevalent at the time of Christ, and it was Jesus Christ himself who accused the Jewish leaders of his day of usurping the message of the patriarchs and prophets of the Old Testament by this oral law, which Christ labeled the tradition of the elders.
In Babylon, the Pharisees codified their oral traditions into the Babylonian Talmud, the written form of that oral tradition which Jesus so bitterly rebuked.
Jesus described the Pharisees as hypocrites, children of hell, blind guides, whited sepulchres, full of dead men's bones. He even described the Pharisees as children of their father the devil, a murderer from the beginning. The Talmud confirms Christ's words.
The Talmud, first and foremost, blasphemes the Lord Jesus Christ, calling him a magician who is now in hell, boiling in his own excrement. The Talmud also blasphemes Christ's Holy Mother, the Virgin Mary, calling her a hairdresser, a prostitute who had sex with carpenters. Then the Talmud spews its venom on the Gentiles to be treated less than subhumans, defrauded, cheated, and even murdered as civilians in times of war, though they be innocent women and children.
The Talmud also encourages seduction of unwed adolescent girls called designated bondmaids. But it's important how such rapes are performed. With the designated bondmaid, one is guilty only in the case of natural connection, but not in the case of perverse connection. The Pharisees reasoned that rape in a perverted manner is outside the jurisdiction of the law. Normal rape, however, was punishable. In one of dozens of endorsements of child sex, Simeon ben Yohai said, "A proselyte under the age of 3 years and a day is permitted to marry a priest." The same section confirms that sexual activity with small boys is in the same category. The intercourse of a small boy is not regarded as a sexual act. It is true because of the wickedness of the Canaanites, which included sodomy and infant sacrifice, Israel had been commanded by God to be harsh in her treatment of the inhabitants of the land. God made it clear that the Canaanites were not simply to be avoided, but destroyed.
It's clear that Hebrew is simply a Canaanite dialect. In fact, I remember reading one scholar said if you go back far enough, you're really hard-pressed to tell the difference between Canaanite and Hebrew.
The Star of David, where does that symbol come from?
It's never written explicitly in the Bible itself.
Is it in the Talmud? Perhaps. Is there a passage in the Bible about that or no?
No.
Okay. So you're not really sure exactly where that comes from?
No. You got me.
Nobody knows,
yeah,
huh?
I don't know. I'm not, yeah.
Because I know it's called the Star of David.
Yeah.
Does it have anything to do with David?
No, I don't think so. There must be somewhere. I do not remember exactly what the association was.
Okay. I believe that what they call the Star of David is actually the Star of Remphan. Because when you study the Bible, you'll see that when they worshipped other gods, the Bible talks about them carrying the banner of the star of their god Remphan.
At the end of Acts 6, Stephen is seized and brought before the council by the Jewish leaders. Beginning in verse 37, Stephen recounts of when the fathers refused the oracles given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and instead desired to set up their own gods. Did you bring me slain beasts and sacrifices during the 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? You took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan, the images that you made to worship, and I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. In other words, what Stephen pointed out in Acts 7 that caused early Israelites to fall into Babylonian exile was the worship of the star of Rephan, or the hexagram.
All these were names for Moloch, the great Baal, the great fire god, who was the devil.
The reason for sacrifice is the god Moloch. Moloch being a widely worshipped Canaanite god, like Baal, who demands child sacrifices. When a couple sacrificed their firstborn, they believed that Moloch would ensure financial prosperity for the family and for future children.
What is the mainstream explanation for human sacrifice? Like, what do they believe started off?
Well, that it's a feeding of psychic energy to supernatural beings. That's what human sacrifice is about. That you take the psychic energy of the individual you're going to kill. You kill them, take their psychic energy and feed it to these vampire-like creatures that are lying in the beyond, that thrive on human misery and pain. And, who are we to say that such things do not exist? We don't understand the nature of reality.
The playbook that every single occult organization splintered off of is the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. The Babylonian Talmud is to science what Kabbalah is to philosophy. The doctrines of this, and other secret societies are all rooted in this mysticism. Albert Pike, one of the most well-known leaders in the history of Freemasonry, said in his book Morals and Dogma that the source of the doctrine of Freemasonry and the Illuminati ultimately goes back to the Kabbalah, the Jewish book of occult knowledge.
The Knights Templars likely acquired their secrets of Gnosis, or internal alchemy, and the Kabbalah from several different sources during their nearly 200 years in the Middle East. The stated goal of these sacred and guarded practices is nothing less than to literally evolve the person's consciousness and being into a higher state of existence.
Now, these teachings of the Egyptian mystery schools eventually became part of the mystery schools of ancient Greece and later Israel. Sacred geometry was used in the construction of Israel's first permanent temple, which was known as the Temple of Solomon. Kabbalah teaches that the design of the temple represented the metaphysical world and was an earthly representation of the tree of life through which the Creator reveals His truth. There's plenty of other evidence that the ancient Temple of Solomon incorporated elements of the esoteric mysteries and sacred geometry that were taught by these ancient mystery schools.
Solomon was a biblical magician king who is accredited with inspiring large parts of the corpus of works we now know as the Kabbalah. King Solomon ruled ancient Israel from the year 970 to 928 BC, and had extensive knowledge of the Kabbalah, which he used to communicate with demons. The Kabbalah describes the many angels and demons who inhabit the spiritual realms. The Kabbalah gives Kabbalists a roadmap called the Tree of Life, which explains how to invoke and communicate with these powerful spirits.
In other words, Solomon was one of the most influential alchemists, occultists, and was guided by none other than Lucifer himself. Revelation 13:18 says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And we see that in 1 Kings 10:14. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. With all of this information, Revelation 13:18, which says the number of the beast is the number of a man, or Solomon, and his number is 666 in gold. Hopefully, my opinion is starting to make sense now.
Satanists, occultists, and Freemasons worldwide venerate the memory of King Solomon, who owned a magic ring engraved with a symbol called the Seal of Solomon. This gave him power over the invisible monarchy of demons. This Seal of Solomon is better known as the Star of David.
The Hebrew Bible, or Old Testament, tells us that King Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem based on plans given by God to his father, King David, as a permanent resting place for the Ark of the Covenant, the chest used to carry the 2 tablets of stone on which the 10 Commandments were written and said to have been received by Moses on Mount Sinai.
We have here the beginning of a legend, and the legend is that in the 2 pillars there is hidden esoteric knowledge, the keys to building, if you will, the kingdom on earth.
And as we have seen in previous episodes, these pillars may have been magically represented by the Twin Towers of 9/11. Minoru Yamasaki designed the World Trade Center complex to aesthetically mirror the Islamic temple at Mecca, where the black stone of the Kaaba is placed. Many historians believe that the Kaaba itself is a pagan representation of the planet Saturn.
During the 1981 to 82 Voyager mission, it was discovered that the North Pole of Saturn had a hexagon-shaped vortex. And while there may be nothing to it, it's awfully strange, as we will come to see, that the hexagram, the 6-pointed star, which contains in the middle a hexagon, had associations with the planet Saturn thousands of years ago. In fact, in connection to the hexagram, we don't have to look much further than King Solomon. According to the History and Practice of Magic, Volume 2, the 6-pointed star is called the Talisman of Saturn, also referred to as the Seal of Solomon. This seal was used to conjure spirits. We also see the hexagram appear in Satan worship. It has been seen used in the Roman Catholic Church and the papacy. It is the center of the main symbol in Theosophy. According to several commentaries, the Rephan is synonymous with the planet Saturn, because the object of worship called Kayun in Hebrew was called Remphan in the language of Egypt. It is generally agreed that the object of their worship was the planet Saturn.
We Freemasons tie our allegorical origins and the foundations of our symbolic learning system to the building of King Solomon's temple about 3,000 years ago. The 3 degrees of the symbolic lodge are inextricably connected to not only the process of building King Solomon's temple, but also the metaphorical implications of what that historical structure represents.
If the legend is correct, the original Knights Templar who excavated the Temple Mount discovered ancient texts containing mysteries of sacred geometry, among other discoveries.
The Kabbalistic higher secrets of ritual sodomy, the evil eye, chanting incantations, necromancy, blood sacrifice, and invoking the fallen angels in service to Lucifer fascinated the French Knights Templar. Many confessions told of the Knights Templar monks ritually sodomizing each other, invoking evil spirits, and implanting these spirits into animals such as cats. A satanic tradition which is still practiced to this day at lodges of the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was once headed by Aleister Crowley.
The secret that Crowley uncovered, probably through demonic intervention, is the secret that this immortality is conveyed through tantric sex magic. And the kind of sex magic that we're talking about here, unfortunately, is a sexual violation of a little child. And what this refers to is that the occult archaeometric doctrine of Masonry is that by accessing alternate universes through sodomy, especially of young boys, you can access alternate dimensions of reality through what are called the tunnels of Typhon. There is a belief that through this sexual perversion, they can access these tunnels into alternate universes, alternate realities. And the goal of this kind of magic is to find your own universe and become the god over that universe. This buys into the modern day physics theory that there's many, many dimensions of reality. Maybe you've read about that.
Regardless, the story of building this first temple by King Solomon is the origin from which almost all our Masonic rituals and symbolism can be traced.
The Knights Templar were also heavily involved in massive building projects throughout Europe. This is the period in which Beautiful churches and castles and Gothic cathedrals were springing up all around the continent. And it was during this era that medieval craft-mason guilds were formed, those that were building these structures. These guilds formed brotherhoods and shared certain moral traditions within their groups. They shared secrets. One of the craft-mason guilds was known as the Children of Solomon, and the Templars formed a special relationship with the group. And soon, the two would combine, and from their union, a new secret mystery school would be born, one which we know today as the Freemasons.
They first renamed themselves the Sovereign Knights of Malta, and then, after establishing trade routes to North America long before Christopher Columbus, they re-emerged in Scotland, calling themselves Freemasons.
So you see, we Freemasons think of King Solomon's temple as a metaphor for building better lives, better relationships, and a better world.
The steeple was none other than the seal of Saturn right in our face.
Alright, we'll use the Masonic compass because everybody's familiar with this. We'll go over this again. Alright, this is your Masonic compass that they show everywhere. It's not secret at all, right? And out of this compass you get your square, your circle, and your triangle, right? Okay, now those three shapes make up a hexagon or a cube. It's all inside this cube that's on the north pole of the planet Saturn, which is what they worship. The cube is in everything.
You gotta always look at things with knowing that they have a deeper meaning. Like I spend every day studying this stuff. Satan is just Saturn in the Bible. And we talking about the Vatican and all of them. They worship Satan.
We're very clear that the deep state believes in symbolism, that they worship Satan, and that Satan or Saturn can be broken up into different symbols that have power, and that they would use these symbols by manipulating them slightly and putting them in plain sight all around us.
Throughout the Middle Ages, the Seal of Solomon has been used by Arab magicians, Kabbalist magicians, Druid witches, and Satanists.
This hexagram and the cube can be found in many strange places and in many strange rituals.
In the multiple spiritual texts, he has been referred to as Moloch, Baal, Beelzebub, but at the end of the day, the deep state views Saturn as Satan.
Saturn is the secret god of the occult world and has been for thousands of years. Multiple cultures began sacrificing humans to this god. Incas, Mayans, Romans, not one of them is still here today.
And so you find this symbol over and over in the ancient world. This is a common recurring theme of Saturn.
And this is what it's all about, IXXI. IXXI is 9/11 in Roman numerals. And look what is in the center of IXXI. It's a hexagon, which is a three-dimensional cube. So just to put it very simply, this is exactly what we're looking at. This is all about this 9/11 IXXI, the generative principle, as above so below, at the expense of thousands of people, as blood sacrifice of the innocent, and then rebuilds into like the rise of the phoenix, like the new age of Lucifer.
Saturn is an important key to understanding the long heritage this conspiracy has back to antiquity. The city of Rome was originally known as the Saturnia, or City of Saturn. The Roman Catholic Church retains much of Saturn worship in its ritual. Saturn also relates to Lucifer. In various occult dictionaries, Saturn is associated with evil. And therefore, again, we keep coming back to this, all these different areas of society are in the end focused on one thing. Satanism is Saturnism. Saturn, Kronos, Satan, Black Sun, Dark Lord, they're all the same thing. Now, coming from Saturn is a particular frequency, and it's the frequency that's making that storm at the North Pole. And this is a cymatic symbol, the six-pointed star, created purely by a particular sound. A sound wave creates a symbol, and a symbol generates a sound wave. So all these symbols and this magic square numerologically of the magic square of Saturn are all representations of the frequency of Saturn, and when they interact with our subconscious, they're locking us into the frequency of Saturn from all over the place.
We now believe that the universe is vibrating, and that there are vibrations of different universes right in this room. There are the universes of dinosaurs, because the comet didn't hit 65 million years ago. They're the wave function of aliens from outer space, looking at the rubble of an Earth that already was destroyed, all in your living room, except we have decohered from them. We're no longer in tune with them. We don't vibrate with them. Therefore, our universe is tuned to one frequency, our universe. But it means that probably there are other parallel universes in your living room, and believe it or not, this is called modern physics. Now, we don't like to tell chemistry students and first-year students the idea of parallel worlds, because it would upset them. You know, they might go crying, crying to their mother. But hey, get used to it. This is the modern interpretation of the quantum theory, that many worlds represents reality.
The Roman statesman and philosopher Marcus Cicero called Saturn Phaenon, a word meaning shining. Saturn is where we get our name for Saturday, and Saturnalia was probably the most popular festival of the Roman calendar, characterized by revelry and orgy.
I mean, look at wars that are happening in the world today. Look at the tens of thousands of people that are being slaughtered in warfare today. That's also a kind of human sacrifice. I think we have to consider the possibility that some kind of demonic force is thriving on this and being nourished by it. And that's one of the things that we need to do as human beings, is to separate ourselves from that and say, no, we will not do that. We will not feed that energy.
So if the Gnostics were correct, then how, in what forms might we expect these forces to manifest? And again, I'm perhaps going to offend some people here, but I'm afraid that this is very clear to me that these are the forms, one of the forms that they manifest in.
And I want you to look at this in a greater context of things. We have had a Zionist-controlled Hollywood, a Zionist-controlled news media that is the conduit to all of this violence, this imagery into every home in America. And so you wonder why there's a culture of violence? It is because it comes from the Jews in Hollywood. That's where the conduit of violence comes from. That's the source of it. But look behind that even deeper. I want to remind you of the Norway shooting of Mr. Breivik, which followed a week after Norway had agreed to support Palestine. And now here we go. Here's a revenge killing in the U.S. sponsored by Israel that was that killed all these innocent children. And that is something that Israelis do very, very well. They target the innocent, they target children, they target women, and they avoid the issue because they're angry, they didn't get their way. So let's connect the dots here about what's going on globally, geopolitically, with Israel involved. Now, they're also calling for a congressional hearing. Now, one thing you can count on with a congressional hearing is there's going to be a cover-up, because all of our congressmen are bought and paid for by the Israel lobby in the U.S. So any truth of this that's going to be is going to be hidden because Israel wants it hidden because they are once again the guilty party. You have to realize Israel has been operating death squads in the United States now since Gabby Giffords and Judge Roll were shot in Tucson. There's been other incidences, the Aurora, Colorado shooting. That was, again, Israeli death squads operating in the U.S. And let's look at our gun control who want to take the guns away. Feinstein, Schumer, Boxer, those are all the ones. Those are all Jewish senators, all Jewish people who want to take guns away from normal, law-abiding, middle-class Americans who have a right under this Constitution to do it. They've been trying to destroy this country and trying to destroy this Constitution for the last 70 years since the Frankfurt School came over here from Germany. And I, for one, it's time to push back. We're not going to sit back and take this Zionist-occupied government that we have in this country anymore. I don't know. I am so disgusted with Israel and their behavior on the international stage. Hollywood is Jewish-owned and Jewish-controlled, and they spew filth and they spew violence out.
Now, I know a lot of folks who hear this ain't gonna like what I'm saying. I really don't give a damn. My job is to tell you the truth, like it or not. If you don't like it, do what you feel you gotta do, but I'm gonna tell it. Because when I stand before the Creator, I'm gonna hold my head up high and say, I open the eyes of the blind by telling them the truth that they didn't want told.